This is the storyboard tutorial part 2. I'm going to show you kind of the basic decoration for your storyboard, and then you can watch the other video on storyboard extras, storyboard ideas if you want to take it a little bit farther. This is just the basics. You need to open the storyboard that you made using the storyboard tutorial. So I have my background with my 3 photos, and you can see over here in the layers palette that I have my pictures that I linked to the shapes that I had made. I want to work with these, so I'm going to put them together so that each photo is one that I can move. Because you'll notice right now that the photo moves within the shape, but the shape itself isn't moving. So I want to be able to move the whole shape and do things with that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the photo, and then I'm going to right click and click on merge down. It will just merge that layer with the layer below it. So you can now see those two merged together, so I have one single layer. And now when I move that, I'm not just moving the photo, I'm moving the whole thing. And then if you don't know where you put it, you can push undo to go back. So I'm going to click on the next photo and merge that one down, and I'm going to click on the last photo and merge that down. So now each of these is its own unique layer that I can work and do some different things to. We've already learned that I could take this layer and go to my effects, click on, for example, drop shadows, and I can add a drop shadow underneath that photo. If you don't like that, you can push undo. There are a few other things that you can do. We've learned how to do the vignettes on the photos. So if you click on your photo, the one that you want to do, for example, let's say I want to add this one, a vignette to this one. What you're going to use is your rectangle elliptical tool, and you're going to click that, and then go ahead and make sure you have a black color if you want, or you can choose a color from inside your storyboard to create a vignette in a color. So I'm going to use a color from my photo, and I'm going to make sure that I create a new layer. You need to make a new layer to work with, otherwise you're going to be right on your photo. I want to work on this photo, so I've highlighted this layer, and now I'm going to click on new layer. You'll notice that it's created a blank layer right above my photo that I can work on. Make sure that one is highlighted. I'm going to go back to my rectangle elliptical tool, and now I'm going to create a rectangle right around that photo that I'm going to add a vignette with. I'm now going to click on my paint bucket, paint that rectangle that I've made, and then on your keyboard you're going to hold Control and the letter D, and that will deselect the box that you made. Now I notice that if I scroll in here, I'm a little bit short, so I'm going to move over just a little bit to get that over my photo, and then I'll scroll back out. Now I'm going to get rid of part of that. So I'm going to click on my rectangle elliptical tool again, and I'm going to stay on that same layer. So I'm going to click again, make sure I'm on that layer, and I'm going to draw a small rectangle that is a little bit smaller than the one I made, and I'm going to let that marching ants, as I call it, that's the rectangle that I made. Now on your keyboard you are going to push the delete key, not the backspace, but the delete key, and when you do that it will delete the inside of that rectangle. I'm going to, on my keyboard, hold the Control D again, Control and the letter D, so I can deselect that. Now on my move tool, this actually has become a layer that I can play around with. I can make it a little bigger if I want, but I'm going to put it right on my photo, and I'm going to get a little closer and make sure that I really am all the way on my photo. I'm going to check it all the way around, come up here, make sure I'm on my photo. See how I came a little bit to, so now I'm just checking. So I need to make this a little bit larger just to fit my photos. So I'm going to drag that over that and then push the green check mark that, yeah, that's what I want. Now what's cool is that if I want, I can click on that layer and I can use my blending modes to multiply that into the photo, make it a little darker, or I can soft light it so that now I have this kind of frosted edge of my photos, and I can see that I need to pull this in just a little bit so I have a little bit more of it on my photo. There we go. Just to give it that effect, you could also hard light it, which will make it see-through. You can see that it is see-through, but it's darker. And you can do some other things with it. Vivid light gives it some cool texture. Where it has white, it's going to see it differently. So these blending modes, you can play around with them a lot. If you don't want that, just go back to normal and you have your layer. I'm going to go ahead and copy this layer so I can make it for the other two pictures. So I'm going to click on this, right click, and I'm going to duplicate this layer so that I can make a copy of that. You'll notice I have two of them now, and if I drag that one away, I'm going to move it on top of my photo, and then I need to change the shape of that so that it fits on that photo. Although it got a little small, I'm not really sure I like that. So maybe remember, you can always undo anything that you do if you don't like that. If you want to make sure you have your shape that actually works, let's go back. Oh. Okay, I'm going to delete that because I don't know what I did. But that is how I can do that. And I just right clicked and then pushed duplicate layer again, and I get that layer. Although I think I'm going to make my own because I want to make a different color. I think that'd be cool. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to trash this. I still have this layer. Now I'm going to go on this picture, push a new layer, and I'm going to make my own rectangle around this one again. I want to play around with the color a little bit. So I've made the rectangle elliptical. I'm now going to choose a different color. I think it might be cool to choose a color from maybe Aubrey's jacket, a little bit different shade, and then click that color again. I'm going to then control with the letter D to deselect, draw my insides, and then I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of that, and then control D again. And then I think it'd be cool to soft light this one just to do something different. The other cool thing is you can do it, make it darker. If I duplicate this layer, you'll notice that it gets a little bit darker but see-through, and I can duplicate this layer again and it will get even darker to kind of make that pop just a little bit differently. So that's something that you can do. So you can play around with your things around your photos that you want. The other option is you could do an edit stroke. Notice, hold on, I went fast. You can click on this photo, and then you could do this differently. You can do a stroke outline, which actually adds a color to the outside or the center of the photo. So you can click something, maybe you want it to be darker, and then click that, maybe you want it to be darker, and then click OK, and it will add the stroke right on the outside of that photo. A little bit different than what I did. So I have 3 different ways that I've made outside edges on the photos. The other, obviously my storyboard, I can leave it white if I want, or I can color the background. I think I'm going to color the background, but I'm going to pick this lighter color blue from the ocean and do a real light color on my background. And then the other thing you can do that's really cool is you can add a whole frame around everything. So let me show you how you do that. If I click my background, I want a new layer right above that. So I clicked that new layer button when I was on my background, so my new layer went there. I'm going to use my rectangle elliptical tool again, but I want to get a dark color this time. I think that dark color from Emma's jacket, and I'm going to draw a rectangle right over the top of my thing. my pictures. And then I'm going to paint bucket that in, and then I'm going to control with the letter D so that I deselect that. Now there's a couple things you can do. If you click view and grid, you can kind of get a grid and really scroll in and look at, do you have the size that you want? Do you have it around everywhere you want so it's kind of the same? You can check the top and the bottom. I'm going to bring that up just a little bit to kind of clean it up so I have kind of the same amount just about everywhere. So now I can push OK, and I'm going to turn my grid back off because I want to see what I'm doing. And then what you can do is click on that dark rectangle that I made, and then click on your elliptical key again, and then go ahead and draw a box back over that. And then again, you can hold the delete key, delete that away, and then Control D to deselect that. So now I've kind of made a frame around my photos, and what's cool is that if I want, I can delete some of that away. So I'm going to make sure I'm still clicking on that. I'm going to use my rectangle key, and I'm going to cut away part of that by pushing my delete key, and you'll see that it's cut away part of that. I'm now going to use my Control D to deselect that, and then I can use my text tool to put in a word there, and you're going to choose your size. If it's not the size you want, the biggest that it shows is 72, but you can actually highlight this and type in something as big as 250. I don't need that big for this. I think I'll do like 50. And then I don't want blue because that will not show up. So I'm going to use something different, maybe this dark blue on Emma's rear. And then I can type in that word, and I'm going to use the word joyful. The other thing is, when you add words, if you click on that layer, these boxes, you can make that word as big and as stretched out as you want to kind of do what you want. So I'm going to fit joyful there, and then I can go back and use different things to it. I can use some inner glows if I want, maybe this little bit of yellow, but of course it took away my blue, so you got to think about what you want. Those are all inner glows. They're going to change the inside. Outer glows are going to go on the outside. So it might be cool to add some kind of just white on the outside. I don't like that as well. Maybe this. Not so much. So you can kind of play around with it. You guys have the, can do what you want. This is kind of what I'm looking for. I do want a background, 3 photos minimum. I'd like you to use the outlines or the strokes or make the vignettes around the outside of your photos. You could also do a circle cutaway. So if you want some other ideas, I'm going to make another video. You're welcome to watch that. But Storyboard should have a finalized colors, 3 photos, a word, some outlining, but have fun with it.